she put me in a rock and a hard spot where I'm not going to have her do anything, so now she's not going to get any money. But when we do go to the store, I'll say, do you want something? And that's when she says, oh, I have money.
So she's finding another way to get money.
Yeah, so I'm like, where's all this money coming from? And it's always pennies, and so I'm like, I looked at my son's penny bank and I noticed, oh, okay.
This seems like the underlying issue between the two of you is trust.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is a huge trust issue, and that's where we're going to need to drill down about little components of that. And you can do lots of them at the same time, too. I know it probably seems overwhelming at this point to do that, but as we continue to talk about it, it might make a little more sense.
Because, yeah, there are many areas, I mean, like, let's look at how we can address it. We can address it with a plan A, but, I mean, you know, remember the chart, like, what's that going to do? Yes, it will pursue our expectation for now, but it's not going to meet those rest of the things. We could address it with a plan C by just giving her money, you know, but again, it's just going to keep it open. It's not going to build the skills. Or we can find out the why behind it by asking her, you know, and doing the plan B. Does that make sense? And it's going to be, we're going to drill down to specific things that we're working on.
So jumping forward a little bit here, we're going to talk about really quickly about the difference between what we call emergency B and proactive B. And I don't want to confuse anybody further, but basically there are two different times that we use Plan B, okay? We can use it in the heat of the moment, like instead of using an A or a C, we're going to maybe try to do some light drilling down in the moment to like bring them back and try to get their concern. Or we can do proactive, which is what we've kind of been promoting all along, that you've got your crisis, you've got your difficult moment, and you're going to A or C that, and then you're going to come back around to B when everybody's calm, because it usually is more sustainable and goes better. We're going to dissuade you from this, like we're going to say, this is probably not, we're probably not ready for this yet.
I mean, the only reason I would say use an emergency B is if you have a very good rapport with the youth in your home, you've practiced successful Plan Bs before, you know where to go with it.
You know that when the doors start slamming, you know the right things to say to kind of calm them down. Are you upset about this thing again, or whatever? But mostly, this is what we're aiming for.
Like Jen, you could probably do an emergency plan because you've had him in your home for now like almost 2 years, a little more than that. My guess is that you could probably do.
We don't. What we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce overall the amount of crises that these kids have over time. And if we just keep coming in with emergency Bs, that's a sign that we're having a lot of crises still, right? So we're trying to front load everything and just ease it up rather than having to put Band-Aids on all the time, okay? So that's my 2 cents about that. I feel like this is a weird place to talk about this. I'm not sure why we have it there, but it's okay. Okay, so now finally we're on today's material, which is more about Plan B. We're going to go into steps 2 and 3 today, okay? So the mantra for today is something we've already covered in this class, that challenging behavior is highly predictable, right? Because we know there are patterns, we know there are triggers, we know there are lagging skills, and if we're paying attention to all these things, we will be able to see maybe what's coming. Does that make sense? Does that seem true? Usually. And yes, there are new surprises all the time, but a lot of times how a child's going to react when they're upset, if we've gotten to know them a little bit, we know what they're going to do when they're upset because they go to those tools. She's a stair blocker, you know, and someone else may be a door slammer. That's what they go to.
Other kids start making up crazy stories.
Allegations.
Yep.
Or hitting themselves, pulling their hair.
Yeah, pulling their hair,
yeah, exactly. Sneaking out at night from their room. So, just a reminder, there's the 3 steps, and we've talked about the first, which is the understanding piece. That's your foundation. You can't move on unless that's being worked on.
You're going to clearly understand the youth's point of view once you've gotten there. Does that make sense? So we know we were ready to move on from step 1 once we were able to clearly define the youth's problem.
And then step 2, which is defining the problem from both sides. So now you bring in your concern. They're both on the table. And then you invite the youth to start coming up with ideas of things that can maybe meet both sides. So, as Anna said, you know you're done with step 1 when you have a clear understanding of the youth's perspective, and you kind of do what I call, you see a light at the end of the tunnel. You're kind of like, aha, I got it. I got something concrete. I got something kind of solid that I can go with. And this is where we're gonna, you know, narrow in with the kid, because now I've got them invested in something concrete. So step 2 is kind of a quick little bridge between step 1 and step 3. Step 1 is a long kind of thing that can happen over many interactions. You're just getting the foundation laid, right? Step 3 is also can be kind of lengthy, where you're trying to come up with solutions. Step 2 is a very quick, 1 minute or less, you know, phrase basically, where you are going to summarize their point of view and your point of view, put them both on the table. So it might be like, let's say Anna is Luke and I'm Mary Ann. I always make you be Luke. I can be Luke if you want. So let's say we drilled down a little bit and we found out that he's got these friends at the skate park, and that actually there's a girl there that he never knows what time she's going to show up, and then if she's there, he doesn't want to come to the car, you know, and he's not thinking about, well, maybe I could see her at school, or maybe I could ask her to hang out. So, like, he's just thinking, I want to be there when she's there.
Pretty classic
He's
teenage thing.
He's not worried about, like, Mary Ann having to wait. Like, he's not aware of my concerns. And I haven't brought them up yet because I've just tried to identify what's his point of view and show him that, like, that matters to me. Like, totally, you like a girl, okay, you get it, you know. And meanwhile, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, he needs to know that he's messing up my life too. But I've put that aside until step 2. So then I'm like, okay, so Luke, we figure, you know, so it sounds like there's this girl that you like, and that's why you're wanting to stay at the skate park, and it's been hard because you don't know what time she's going to be there, and
Yeah, it's
what time you're there depends on what time she's there.
Yeah.
So, did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my concern is that, you know, we have a set time that you're supposed to come to the car, and when you don't, then I'm stuck waiting for you. And you know I have to pick up Shelly, and I have to get dinner ready, and all these things.
Yeah.
So, those are the 2 concerns on the table. Very simple.
It's hard, and for me, I had to practice this a lot, like figuring out how I was going to say it in my language. Does that make sense? Because it's like, it's so quick and fast, and you don't need to extend it. You don't need to, like, you know, start lecturing at them.
All it takes is having the 2 concerns on the table, and then you jump into step 3. It's like whoosh.
It's not like saying, well, you know, I have to get, like, so like when she was saying, so Luke, you know, I can see that, you know, what concerns you is that, you know, this girl's there and you never know when she's going to be there. Well, my concern is that, you know, I have a set schedule and we have dinner and I have to pick up Shelly, and so it's hard for me when you don't come to the car. And this isn't the point where you say, don't you see how hard that is for me? Don't you see, like, can you understand my point of view?
We're going to need to change this, and I'm going to just pick you up an hour later. Like, you don't come in with your solution still. You're just putting both concerns on the table. You're bringing up your concern, okay? And you're going to kind of swoosh right into step 3. So let's rewind. Beep, beep, beep. And so it sounds like your concern is you want to be at the skate park when this girl is there, and, like, you don't know what time she's going to be there. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
My concern is that when I have to wait in the car, like, I'm late to pick up Shelly, dinner's late, which throws everything off. So what should we do about this situation? Like, can you think of any solutions?
I'm going to stay at the skate park.
Okay, so one solution would be for you to stay at the skate park. Let me see if that works for you and me. That works for you because then you get to be with the girl. And does it work for me? Well, no, because like I said, I have to pick up Shelly, dinner and everything. So let's keep, do you mind if we brainstorm some more ideas?
Well, yeah, because I want to hang out with her. And we need to figure, yeah.
Okay. Then let's maybe, like, and so you could, like, make a list, or you could whatever, like, here's Luke's concerns, here's Mary Ann's concerns, and I'm like, okay, Luke is saying, or you don't have to write it down either. You can just be like, okay, well, let's see what else.
We were talking, some parents, and the reason why we were saying, like, the writing it down is that some parents in their class yesterday said that really worked for them. It was like, well, do you mind if I write this down? Like, can I
have the kid write them down?
Yeah, or do you want to write this down so we can keep track of the ideas that we come up with? And at this point, you're just keeping track of ideas. You don't have to go, you know how Margaret went there and was like, did that test out loud? Well, I don't know if that's going to work for me.
We don't have to jump to that. We can just list a bunch of ideas like that. Okay. So one option would be you could stay later. What else?
well, maybe I could take the bus home when I'm done.
Okay, so staying later or taking the bus home. Do you think of anything else?
Well, I think she comes on Saturdays,
So maybe going a different day to the skate park?
if I can make sure that she's there on Saturday.
Okay. You mind if I think of some ideas too?
I guess.
I could drop you off later.
But what if she's not there?
Because you don't know when she's going to be there, so that's part of the problem. Do you have a phone number? Are we not there yet?
Right, ask
There's another plan B drilling down, like, are you totally mortified about, like, talking to this girl? Let's talk about that, you know? Okay, so let's say we came up with this whole long list of possible solutions. I mean, there's a lot of solutions to that problem, really, if you look close. But they have to work for both sides for this to truly be a plan B. So, let's go down our list. Bear with me, Luke, I know this is irritating and there's other things you'd rather do, but let's just look at our list. So, you just getting to stay. That would work for you because you get to see the girl, but then I still have no idea when I'd pick you up. And like
What if I like call you?
you also only have an hour of unsupervised time, so like, that would depend what time I drop you off.
What if we ask Chelsea if I can have like 5 hours of supervised time?
Does that work for me? Does that work for you? You know, we're doing, again, like, and sometimes there's other people involved. Sometimes there's other people involved, like, was this the class where we had the example where Luke wanted to bring the skateboard to school and, you know, we weren't comfortable with that because he might get triggered, so maybe he could keep it in the office? Did we use that example? Okay, so that solution works for Mary Ann, that solution works for Luke, but does it work for the school nurse or whoever has to guard the skateboard? You know, does the school even want him to bring it in? So we could come to an agreement and be like, you know.
And your agreement can be contingent on like, okay, so we're gonna talk to the nurse to see if she can hold your skateboard at school. And if that doesn't work, can we revisit this? Okay, that works for me, works for you. And we can revisit it once we do the nurse.
I think what's important too, like, let's say the school isn't wanting to have it there. If that child also knows that you're going to approach the school again anyway and say, this really needs to happen for him, then that also builds that rapport.
Yes.
Because the guy, well, with our guys, I mean, it would make them feel like
You had their back.
this person cares about me, and that opens up more for trust because we went anyway and we're fighting for them, and they, at least all the guys we've had, really like that.
That's exactly what, that's another
That's a super
perk to
good
Plan B. The whole thing builds kind of.
Yeah, and that's a super good point too. So don't agree to anything that you wouldn't be able to follow through with. Like, let's say you have a really nasty relationship with the principal and just talking kind of like drives you crazy. Well, then you're not gonna go and be the person who approaches that, but you can, you know, you can delegate. Or let's find a different solution that actually works. Like, if you can't follow through with it, you're just at equal there with the kid. Does that make sense?
You might be kind of like, well, this, I like that solution and you do, but I really don't know if that's doable because Mr. Marshall is so uptight. You know what I mean? And that's off of you. It's kind of like, well, we both know he has it in for you, it feels like, you know, and this and that. So just a couple pointers and then maybe we can do some more examples. You're really wanting to, again, use reassurance here, like I know you're thinking of it, and I know this kind of sounds stiff and like scriptured almost. Again, it's going to be your personality and your natural way that you talk to kids, okay?
Because who
You're
has
just going to frame it like, in this way.
who hasn't had a kid where you're like, no, I really want to hear what you have to say. No, you don't. You know, like, I mean, I know that I've had that happen to me.
I really do.
And it's like, yeah, no, I actually really do care. Like, please let me know what's
We
going
both
on.
are miserable because we have this problem. So yeah, I am invested in working on it with you.
Or a kid that says, we're never going to figure out what will work. This is just no. Like, a kid who gets overwhelmed easily. Or like me who gets overwhelmed. You know, I do the same thing. And I need someone to tell me, we're going to figure something out.
It's not the end of the world, I promise. You're going to want to list as many ideas as possible. And again, if the child doesn't have ideas, or like Luke came up with a few and then he was like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, can I bring up some? And I'm not saying, well, here's the solution. I'm saying, can I bring up some ideas? And let's weigh whether they work for both of us or not. And in that whole process, you're teaching all these lagging skills about seeing other people's point of view, like, you know, just thinking skills, thinking through these things. So
This is like an overall, like when we're looking at doing a plan B, and we'll talk more about troubleshooting next week. But this is like, you know, you are meeting there's this acronym MAD. So you're meeting halfway with the kid. Not halfway in terms of like you're compromising your concerns, but your concerns are both out on the table. Does that make sense?
In that conversation, you're equals. You're secretly guiding it and more knowledgeable, but you're hanging out together like buddies and you're equal in that moment, okay?
And let's say it didn't go well. Well, you have a full team of people you can ask for help. If something didn't go right with your plan B, use that. Use me and Margaret, use your FCC, and ask for help.
Let's say Luke is like, I ain't talking to you about girls. So, you know, my plan B got halted because he doesn't want to talk about this crush he has with me. So maybe we pull Ed into the conversation, and Ed is like, I hear you like a girl, and maybe they get along better, and you know, I'm a trigger for Luke, whereas Ed is not, you know, so just using support people, things like that. And that's also part of the planning, like who is the best person to approach and do the plan B? It might not be you, you know?
Did we go over the worksheet next time?
What worksheet?
The plan B worksheet?
I think so.
Sorry.
That's okay. For example, if a kid has an issue at school and they got suspended, you might be a better person to talk to the kid and try to drill down than the teacher would, right? Because the teacher, they're like this, or Mr. Marshall, or who's got it in for him. Like the kid it may have better rapport with you. Maybe, maybe not. But about that situation, because they don't think they might think you're mad at them for getting suspended, but there's a little less heat than there might be with the school. Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, this is kind of our test to see if solutions are viable. Does it work for me? Does it work for you? Is it even possible? Is it realistic? And if we do this, will it bring up any additional concerns? So these are kind of the self-talk that you're doing out loud with the youth. And again, you're not a robot using these exact terms or something. It's going to be your own personality. So like I was doing with Luke, let's see, so having you go on Saturdays instead of Tuesdays. So would it be during the day or would it be in the evening, or like what time is she there?
I mean, I think she's there like maybe at 2.
Okay, so
Wednesdays.
in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that, you don't have anything on your schedule on Saturday afternoons. I mean, we have chores in the morning. And if you did your chores, I wouldn't have a problem with this. And I usually have, the bake sale at noon, usually, or I don't know, whatever. I have to go to CPS class at noon. And at 11:30. And so I'd be done in time where I could maybe take you at 2, and you'd be done by 3?
Maybe.
I think we can try.
Like, we need to keep it to an hour because of DHS and all these things. I mean, if you did well with it, we could ask for more time, but like, we can't expand that until we know you're sticking to the time you have. You know that you've been at these meetings. You know you're not going to approve it.
But I want to hang out with her.
So is that realistic?
I think I can try.
You can try. Because if you don't, then we might not be able to do this plan.
So I can do it.
Okay. And fast forwarding. Jumping, oh God, where is it?
There we go.
Okay, over there. Okay. So there's kind of a secret 4th step. It's not a secret, but it's just not official. An invitation to revisit the problem if that solution doesn't work. So if I do keep having to wait in the car, then we haven't really solved the problem.
Yeah.
So you're giving me your word you'll be done in an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. And if not, we're going to go back to our list and figure out a different solution.
Yeah, or if you come like a little bit early, that's going to be a problem too.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll wait in the car if I come early.
So then also, if
4 o'clock.
like if you are successful doing this for a couple weeks, then then I think we should go to Chelsea
Sorry,
or,
who's Chelsea
you
today?
know, and let's ask for you to get some more time
Yeah.
because you've shown that you can do
Yeah.
this. So I think that you would have earned more time.
Yeah, because you are responsible, it's just the time, it's taking, you're not finishing on time. I'm not worried about what you're doing. Maybe I should be. I'm not worried about what you're doing, I'm just worried about the having to wait. Like,
Okay.
you have to stick to that time.
Yeah, as long as we promise we can ask Chelsea.
Yeah, so from 2 to 3 on Saturday. Okay. We'll see
Boom.
how it goes. I mean, it might not work, but then we come back to it and it's like, well, we tried that. Not just you had to do something or I had to impose. We tried this shared agreed thing. So, rewinding again.
Maybe we should put this line in like 3 times.
Yeah. So in this process, you are teaching the trust, the ability to build trust, hopefully. You're also teaching, I have helped Luke put communication, communicate with words.
Whether it's he's learning how to do it verbally or watching the process, like Margaret's modeling that for him. And he's gonna learn how to do it, either himself thinking it through it and be able to speak out loud, or and also by watching Margaret do it. Does that make sense?
And also because I'm reflective listening and I'm like, this is what you said, right? So like clarifying, so he's like, oh, okay, I'm saying what I mean, or I'm learning to say what I mean. If like I keep clarifying and he has to keep, like it's not quite accurate and he's like, well, he's finding different words to explain and finally I get it, he has learned some communicating skills. He's also learning listening skills, empathy, he's learning about the effect his behavior, he may not have even thought about the fact that I had to wait in the car, and maybe he still doesn't necessarily care about that as much as he cares about seeing this girl, but our solution had to incorporate this. Maybe also some flexibility and organization. All these things are lagging skills, and that's what we're trying to address. Okay? So some important tips about Plan B. There is no such thing as a failed B. Even if like me and Luke's solution doesn't work, or even if we never even got to step 2 and we were just stuck in the drill down, it's still considered successful if we were able to sit down and talk and no one was blowing out and no one was yelling, and we were getting on the same page on any level, even if it was just a tiny bit, that's still a success. The seed is still planted.
You're building new connections, like we talk a lot about the brain and how trauma can really damage the brain to a certain extent. And you are building new connections and forging new memories of what a relationship is like with a person. And it's gonna look different to what they had in the past. No matter what, I'm gonna say no matter what, this is gonna look different.
Yeah. The other thing is that, while we may want to go to Plan A for these giant problems related to safety and things like that, actually Plan B, like coming back with a Plan B, is the most durable of all 3 of the plans. It actually does address giant scary problems, and it does it in a more thorough, durable way. Like instead of just band-aiding it, it's actually coming up with what am I trying to say? It's not just treating the symptoms, it's like curing that behavior.
It's that internal change that we're talking about making.
Exactly. It's also, like I've kind of alluded to already, it's a messy process, it's a repeating cycle, so one leads to another, and every Plan B kind of snowballs as you go, right? And that's why we were talking about when you get to, if you ever were at a point where you were doing an emergency B, all that stuff's kind of based on where you've gone with the child before, when you've built the rapport and kind of figured out clues about that kid. And also you can juggle more than one at once, which is kind of like what I was talking about with you, Shalonda, where
Not Shalonda,
I'm so
Lashonda.
sorry, LaShonda. Dyslexic speech here, that probably happens a lot.
It does.
Because we have a foster parent named Shalonda.
Yes.
Just about juggling, when you're talking about something with the youth, another thing comes up that you're like, whoa, we better look into that too. It's pretty complicated stuff. And it's pretty awkward, and it's definitely an adjustment to getting used to interacting this way with kids. But once you start to get it, it really does make sense, and it really does create durable solutions.
Do you guys want to take a quick break, or do you want to say what you're, I just was curious, or else we can plow through. It's up to you guys. You have to go?
I have to take child
Okay.
to doctor's appointment.
The only thing that I see with Plan B is that, and this doesn't always happen with Maple Star anyway, but if you do get a very low functioning child, it just, they can't get to that
Right.
Plan B level.
Well,
They
it
just
won't go
don't
as,
have
it
yet.
won't
They
go as
can't.
smooth as it did with Luke, okay? But what they say, what Think Kids says is that this actually works as children as young as 3. So if the child is functioning on a 3-year-old's level, this can work. It just involves a little more of those kind of guessing games and.
You're gonna be talking the process out loud a lot more, rather than having them self-generated, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it will, like, I watched it be done on a kid that was completely nonverbal, and it was like,
We could do an example if you want with like.
No, I just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it because it's like.
Because sometimes when you talk to them, they just have this look on their face and they just don't get it. They're just like, you know.
So
and
the
they're not-
concern is that you can't get enough.
if they have processing issues, it's very difficult for them to, you're coming at them, you know, talking to them, but they're just not, they can't process it enough. And sometimes they just blurt out whatever because they really can't process what you just said to them. So they may just, you know, start yelling or whatever again because they're not even getting what you're trying to even say to them.
Right.
They're just kind of going back to something else, or they may blurt out something that isn't even relevant to anything, like, well, you know, my dad was a child molester, and you're, you know, just blurt out something totally different. I mean,
So it does really depend on the lagging skills, I think, is what you're saying, and some lagging skills are more gigantic.
That has to do with the thought process.
yeah. Because sometimes it will take, I mean, I've watched, especially I'm thinking of the kid that Margaret used to do Plan Bs on. You would ask him a question, and he would look at you. In his mind, you could like see it like going to outer space and going.
squirrel.
I know, and then coming back, and sometimes he would answer the question that it would take a while.
Totally.
And sometimes it involves like using pictures, or like there are different ways that you can go about it without.
Right, well, we have one
Yeah.
child that we still do that stuff with because there's a receptive language
Yeah.
issue involved, and so we still have to break things down. But there's still some times where they just don't get it.
Yeah. It is definitely harder with some kids than others. You had your hand up too, I know you have something.
Yeah, at one point I had a 15-year-old kid who was like what you're talking about, like barely verbal, and was functioning like a 2 or 3-year-old probably. And I don't, like, we tried to do Plan B type stuff and he wasn't getting it. It was like too many words. And we ended up doing like pictures or even like, hey, follow me, and then almost like providing the solutions at first, and then he was like, oh, that did kind of work. And then it was like slowly connecting the dots for him, and I don't know if that's like a true Plan B or not. Like, I think it definitely built rapport, but he couldn't come up with any of his own.
Yeah, I mean, you may just end up staying in step 1 until, you know, for months, until you
It
get.
was like a year before he started being like, oh.
Or if it's a kid, you know, who is low, like, and we're talking about like, you know, very, very low functioning,
Yeah.
it might be that like, okay, well, you can't think of any ideas. I have an idea. How about this? Can you think of any other ideas? Like, see if they can copy like your thought, and just doing it out loud. And like, you know, still coming up with a list of ideas, and then seeing which one would work best that solves both problems.
I think the other challenge with those types of kids that are so low functioning or have just brain issues is like one day they'll be really great, and then the next day it's like functioning at a totally different level. Like it's
So
different all the time.
it's hard to even know where
Even
to
minute to
begin.
minute.
What do I
Sometimes you
plan to
think
do
it-
about it?
Sometimes you think you've made a step forward,
Yeah.
and then 2 days later, the same thing might happen, and you're just you're just like, okay, we're starting all over again.
So obviously that solution didn't work. Go ahead.
That's where pictures really come in handy. You know, if you have a digital camera and you can take step-by-step pictures and then post them. I've done it on the bedroom door or something like that, so that when you, 2 days later, you go back and say, see, we talked about this, and just go step by step. Then you're not constantly doing it. Or if a child just changes the subject, sometimes what I've done is, to me, that's almost like a signal, like,
I'm done.
I've maxed out here.
Yeah.
I can't absorb anymore. And I'll usually say, you want a drink of water? Want some juice? You know, need a break? Need to go to the bathroom?
It's
Something like
really
this,
involves
just to kind
a
of.
lot of slowing it down. It's like insane amount of patience. It's the solutions don't come instantly, for sure. And it definitely depends on individual kids, and some are gonna be way harder, and practicing these skills and learning the model would probably be better done on somebody that is more functional, and then once you get the skills down, it'll make sense how to apply it to somebody that maybe has those cognitive difficulties and stuff. So again, just in summary, you'll know you're done with Plan B when you have come to a realistic, mutually satisfying solution that works for both sides. Okay? And we talked about the final fourth step, and then next up we play a game. So do you guys want to take a break before we play our game?
We want to power through.
I don't care.
If we power through, we may get done early. I
Let's go for it.
don't know. Okay, you want to hit the lights?
Yep. You just take a break if you need it,
Yeah.
and then someone else can catch you up.
And I'll just go on there to get the last part of today.
Yeah, we don't have it up yet.
I
We're
can
making it.
email you the link.
But we'll email you the
when
link.
I finish. Yeah.
I'll save on that.
You know, the other thing with Brianna, what kept happening is that we could go like almost a month,
I haven't heard
and
it
then all of a sudden it's like,
Just write everything
she totally